Welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to be with you to talk about civil legal aid opportunities and information for law students. My name is Allie Lynch, and I'm the Executive Director of the Wisconsin Equal Justice Fund. WEJF's primary mission is to raise funds for 3 providers of pro bono civil legal aid services to low-income individuals and families in Wisconsin. Those 3 providers for whom we raise funds are the 3 you'll hear from today: Wisconsin Judicare, Legal Action of Wisconsin, and Disability Rights Wisconsin. You'll find a list of additional providers of civil legal aid in Wisconsin on the bottom of your flyer or at the bottom of the webpage related to this presentation. And that webpage is www.e-justice.org/studentinfo. After you hear from our legal aid providers, I'll tell you a little bit about how civil legal aid is funded, more about WEJF, and we'll leave lots of time at the end for questions. So what is civil legal aid? At the top of your flyer and on the webpage for this presentation, you'll find a wonderful experiential learning game that was developed by Marquette University Law School and the Milwaukee Justice Center with support from Legal Action of Wisconsin and the New Leaders Council Wisconsin chapter. It's intended to allow students, lawyers, legislators, and other members of the community to learn more about the actual experiences of Wisconsin's low-income residents facing civil legal aid problems. We encourage you to explore the game to learn more about the realities that our friends and neighbors may face. For the purposes of today's presentation, though, civil legal aid is help available to non-criminal cases where you cannot afford an attorney on your own. We all know that the U.S. Constitution assures us the right to legal counsel if we're accused of a crime, but civil legal aid is there for people facing issues related to housing, employment, veterans, disability, public benefits, consumer, bankruptcy, domestic violence, abuse and neglect, and family law matters, including divorce and child custody, support, and visitation. If you can't afford legal assistance to help you deal with one of those types of issues, you're on your own without civil legal aid providers. And unfortunately, this is an area that is sorely lacking in resources, both financial resources and time resources, meaning there just aren't enough civil legal aid attorneys and staff to presently serve everyone in need. So that's what civil legal aid is. Now, why do we support pro bono legal services as a profession? Way back in history, the King of England granted barristers the right to practice law, but only in exchange for the promise to provide services to those who could not afford them. So we have this long history within our legal profession of serving the underserved. Today, we have an actual, we provide pro bono legal services because we know justice is best served when every party to a legal action is represented by legal counsel. There's even a Wisconsin Supreme Court rule on the matter, which states that a lawyer should provide at least 50 hours of pro bono legal services per year and voluntarily contribute financial support to civil legal aid providers, There are those in our profession who take it a step further and work full-time in public service. Before I turn the presentation over to Paige Jewell from Wisconsin Judicare, Kit Kirschensteiner from Disability Rights Wisconsin, and Maggie Niebler-Brown from Legal Action of Wisconsin, I want to take a moment to thank them and their colleagues for their tireless work. None of this work would be done without them and their colleagues, and we're so grateful to them for their service to our profession and to our friends in our communities. So now I turn it over to you, Paige.
Thank you. Muted myself on accident. I'm just starting my little stopwatch so I don't go too long. My name is Paige Jewell. I'm from Wisconsin Judicare. I am our private attorney involvement director. I started as a staff attorney. We have many staff attorney positions, but I believe our other speakers will talk a bit more about making legal aid a career, a full-time career. So I'll skip over that mostly. I worked in elder law and family law and a little tribal law as well since 2017. And for the past almost a year, I've been our private attorney involvement director. As you might see from the PowerPoint, Judicare serves a big swath of area. mostly rural. We serve the whole northern 33 counties. And depending on the legal matter, we serve tribal members, Native Americans throughout the state. And we have some remote workers, but our one main office is in Wausau. And our the people we serve in the list that I have, like family, housing, employment, Indian law, benefits, as I mentioned, elder rights or financial abuse. There's just so many counties and so many areas of practice, wills and powers of attorney, I didn't mention that in there, that we really rely on our private attorneys who have a specialty that we're not as familiar with, or who are local to a county that's very far away from us, so that they can provide more personal care to many of our clients and more specialized service if it's a unique area of law. So we really rely on our attorneys for that kind of thing. One thing that Judicare does that's unique if you are going into private practice per se, we of course have pro bono opportunities. If you'd love to donate your time, we will take it. We will take your time. We will give you consults with clients or full cases in the areas of law that you're more interested in, provided that it's something we can, an area of law that we can also work on. But we also do something that we call low bono. So if you have, if you want to take more cases from Judicare, but you can't afford to just take pro bono cases, we, for many of our cases, will match it with a client, with an attorney, and that attorney will be paid a reduced rate for their time on that case. Currently, it is $60 an hour, plus we cover a variety of costs, which if you compare that to public defender work or guardian ad litem appointments or some other similar appointments, it's not very far off. It's not going to make you rich, but it helps cover for your time to help keep the lights on and things like that, and helps motivate the attorneys to provide quality service for each of their clients. And how you can do that is either by putting your name on a list of ours so that we share it with clients who are looking for an attorney, and they can use that to find you, or if there's a unique circumstance where we think the client needs help finding an attorney, we will reach out to you directly. So if you don't want your name on that list that goes to clients in your area, you can just leave your name on our private list and get probably fewer phone calls, but more pleading phone calls from me saying, oh, this person really needs help, please help them. So in that way, there's a lot of flexibility with working pro bono or low bono to provide services to as many clients as you can, but only when you want to, not when, you know, you always can decline a particular case, but we love it when you take them on. I haven't seen anything pop up in the chat, but I think we have Q&A later on. So I would pass it along then to, I believe, Kit Kirschinger from Disability Rights.
Yeah, did anybody have any questions for Paige before we go on? Okay, yeah, Kit, go ahead. Thanks so much, Paige.
Hello.
Hi, Kit.
Thank you all for braving the cold. I'm Kit Kirschensteiner. I'm the Director of Legal and Advocacy Services at Disability Rights Wisconsin. We are a statewide organization, cross-disability organization that does legal and policy work for individuals, on behalf of individuals with disabilities across the state. So we're a little different than, we're not a legal services corporation as one might, you know, expect, I think, for both Judicare and the rules for Judicare and LAW. We are mostly federally funded, but we also have a significant piece of state funds as well for the variety of programs that we have for cross-disability issues across all systems. We do work in jails and prisons and mental hospitals and group homes. I think we're primarily charged with with on the P&A side, protection and advocacy side, which is a nationwide system of federal that we get our federal grant funding through. Our primary purpose is to protect individuals against abuse and neglect, physical, verbal, financial. And then we have state programs that do more work with getting people services. We do that as well, but a lot more work with getting people services and making sure their rights are protected. Generally, we do employment discrimination, we do housing discrimination, but we don't do all the clients on the you know, I don't want to say at a more of a retail level, but we don't do a lot of cases, put it that way. We strive to do impact law, and we're always looking for attorneys. And I guess I'm pitching more, not the you're in private practice and then you volunteer some time. I'm pitching the idea of legal aid attorneys, social justice attorneys as a career path. I think there's benefits to it. I think there's no one way to get there. I think it's important to know what you want to do when you leave law school, but sometimes you don't. For example, I've been a lawyer for, gosh, mostly about 40 years now. And when I first got out of law school, I was a legal writer for a legal publishing company, and spent a few years doing that and hated it. And then I moved into criminal appellate defense work in Chicago for a number of years, and then decided I was really interested in pursuing social justice. I had no background in disability law. I think you can swap out those components of learning the particular law fairly easily, but it takes what we're looking for and how, you know, we're thinking about people when they come to us, especially people just out of law school, is do they have a social justice passion? And does it show in action? I guess that's in terms of what to highlight in a resume or whatever, if you are applying for a job or a fellowship or something. You know, it's good to be in a club, you know, it's good to be in a group at the law school, but I think we look even more so at what experiences, what on the ground experiences have you had? For example, I've volunteered for 5 years at Special Olympics, is going to weigh heavily versus I was in a lunchtime club at school. We're looking for action, putting your hours where your interests are. So that's I would encourage you to make sure that you're doing that. You're looking at what you've done in the past that highlights action that you've taken along whatever path you're looking at, whether it's DRW or another one of the fine agencies here, to really think about what you've done in your past that was actually doing. And that's a really important part of looking for work. I think there's things to be considered other than salary. I don't think any of these legal services places are going to be able to compete with a lot of the private firms. But I think there are other things. You get paid sometimes in ways other than money. And I think, first of all, doing the social justice work is one great reward. Though I think you're able to get a work-life balance in a lot of public interest places that you don't get in a firm where you have to keep your billable hours up. We do things because it's the right thing to do and not because we have a client who's able to pay us, because clients don't pay us. And I know loan forgiveness, just not being bothered with the business of law. I think that's one of the first shocks I had when I got out of law school and got a job in a small firm, was the business of law is pretty onerous. Practicing law is fun, but doing the business is not so much fun. I can't see anything, but all I've got is this page Jules on a black screen. So I'm not sure exactly where we're at, what's going on.
Just
Other
fine.
than that, oh, there we go. So if there are any questions, we're not always looking for attorneys, but in this climate, I think it's particularly changed when I got out of law school, you really worked hard to get any kind of a legal job. I think that's no longer the case. I think you guys have for better or worse, a more fluid market out there for you, for your skills. But I would encourage you to think about a career in social justice law, whether it's with one of these 3 organizations or another one. It's really rewarding. It really is. May not help your bank account as much as you would like, but with loan forgiveness now, like I know we're part of the loan forgiveness program, it makes it more viable. So I pass it on to the next speaker, unless there are questions.
Yeah, or does anybody have any questions for Kit before we move along to Maggie? No questions for Kit. Thanks so much, Kit. Maggie?
Mhm.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just want to, thank everyone for coming out. It's so cold. I'm jealous that you guys are eating pizza and I'm stuck in my office eating the lame lunch that I packed for myself this morning. So I am the coordinator for the Volunteer Lawyers Project and the LAP director at Legal Action of Wisconsin. So I do all of Legal Action's pro bono coordinating and all of our pro bono programming. Legal Action is a legal service corporation funded agency, and so we cover the part of the state that Judicare Page's office does not cover, so the 39 southern counties. So we do have the Madison and the Milwaukee markets in our service area. Our priority practice areas are very similar to Judicare's. So we cover consumer law, employment law, housing, public benefits, and family law are our 5 priorities. And then we have special funding for projects that focus on different kinds of, human trafficking survivors, sexual assault survivors. We have a big farm workers project that does farm worker outreach. We have lots of different dedicated funding, including funding from WEJF as well. I coordinate our pro bono, but I just wanted to talk about good ways for law students to launch your public interest career while you're in law school. What can you do now to get to the place where, like Kit was saying, you're getting hired and you're going to start working in a public interest firm, or even to start, preparing yourself to making pro bono part of your practice if you are going to go into private practice. I started out as a paralegal prior to law school, and then I went to law school with public interest law in mind, because I was at a public interest firm when I was a paralegal. And then when I graduated, I received a fellowship to start my career, which started a project at a public interest firm in Philadelphia. I was doing immigration law at the time and was there for 7 years. And then my family moved to Milwaukee and I was in private practice for a year. And honestly, I really missed the rewards I was getting of having a public interest career. And at that time, my current position at Legal Action opened up and I applied for it. And I didn't expect that I was going to leave, more of the direct service side of public interest law and practice for more of a program administration and program coordinating and developing. But I did. And I've found, both sides, both direct service, working directly representing clients every day in a public interest firm, very rewarding, and also more of the administrative side that I do now. So, there's lots of different ways to get in this career. One of my colleagues that I work with the most started his career at Quarles and Brady, went to GE, and now he's the director of of the housing in Milwaukee and our eviction defense project, which is a pretty big project here in Milwaukee. So there's lots of different ways to end here. So things that we look for and I think really help students stand out when we're hiring and can also just give you really good experiences is to take advantage of all the experiential learning you can do in law school. UW and Marquette have great opportunities. Internships are a great way to get involved with public interest firms. During your internship at one of our offices, you're probably going to have opportunities to really work closely with clients. And now that there's an expanded practice role, perhaps represent clients. I know last summer we had like at least 6 or 7 interns that were representing clients at unemployment hearings. So helping people when they needed it most during their hearing, advocating for clients. It's an opportunity that many new attorneys don't have. And you can get that even through your internship. The Wisconsin Public Interest Law fair is coming up. And there's also a Midwest fair. I think resumes had to already be submitted for that, but if you're participating in that, great. If you're a 1L and you want to participate in those next year, consider it if you want to, try to get an internship at one of our firms. The other things that really stand out and can help you decide what you want to do and where you want to be and build relationships with public interest attorneys and kind of learn how to become a public interest attorney is also the externship placements and the clinics during, the school year. Those clinical experiences are fantastic and really just help you hone your advocacy skills, your client management, time management, case management skills. It's critical to becoming a lawyer. And in my opinion, when I was in law school, I really enjoyed those a little bit more than the classroom time. I wasn't really the student that wanted to do a ton of research and writing. I really enjoyed getting in and advocating for clients. So those opportunities, if you take advantage of them, really do stand out on a resume and help you build skills that you're going to need. And like Kit said, there's other ways to do things that show that you are learning and wanting to work with different populations. We do look at whether people have worked on, building their language capacity, working with different groups of, people, like, Kit was saying, even if you were doing some kind of thing that was non-legal, your volunteer commitments outside of law school and even before law school will show your dedication and commitment to this work. I also want to just plug your career services. You guys have great services there on law school campus. Take advantage. It will help you, really focus your applications, focus your cover letters, focus your resume to make the skills and the opportunities that you've had stand out and help you really link your experiences with the work that you want to do. A lot of career services will, let you do practice interviews. They can help you develop fellowship applications to work at, schools. If you are thinking a fellowship is the route you want to do postgraduate, I do recommend building a relationship with a nonprofit earlier than when the application is due. Those applications come up early in 3L year, like September, October, they're due. And to develop a project and have a really good, solid plan that you're submitting to those applications, which are very competitive, I just really strongly recommend that you reach out to those, like service providers like our offices early in the spring, maybe even try to get an internship and start working on developing a fellowship application during your internship is a really good idea because those do come up very quickly if you're just starting to think about it at the beginning of your 3L year. I think those are the main things that I would recommend to get involved. I'm happy to, and I know Paige and Kit are happy to field any questions as well.
Any questions so far for Maggie now? Yeah, go ahead.
It says in the practice areas, it says housing, licenses, welfare, like what type of licenses?
So usually we do have a driver's license recovery clinic or center in Milwaukee, and then we do driver's license recovery work throughout Wisconsin. And then some of our employment attorneys do some kind of employment licensing defense work.
Awesome.
But the majority of our work right now, when we say licenses, it tends to lean towards the driver's license recovery side. It's part of our barriers to employment work, where we really focus on driver's license recovery and criminal and record expungement.
And Maggie, I don't think it was in the Judicare blurb, but that also comes up at Judicare as well, or even in bankruptcy when there are strange barriers to someone having their driver's license, especially in rural Wisconsin where they really need to drive. We do what we can to help them recover those.
Allie, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the loan forgiveness rules uniform, and my understanding was you needed to have 10 years of public interest work in order to get complete forgiveness of all student loans, and would that apply for Judicare, legal action, and disability rights?
Yes, it would cover most nonprofit legal service providers and also government employment as well. So there is a pretty broad group of legal jobs that you could do that would qualify for the loan forgiveness, but certainly all 3 of our offices do.
Maggie, what's the duration?
It's 10 years right now.
Yes, great, thank you. Any other questions?
But it,
Go ahead.
but that it doesn't have to be 10 years at one single place. So like I know someone who worked at Judicare and then moved to Milwaukee and is now working at Legal Action. Those years add up together.
Right. And that's how I got mine. I was in Philly for 7 years and only 5 years of those counted because some of it was before the loan forgiveness existed. And then I was in private practice that didn't count. And then when I came to Legal Action for another 5 years, I qualified. So.
Awesome. Any other questions before we move on?
Thank you so much to Paige, Kit, and Maggie. We're so grateful that you were here today to help us understand more about your programs and what you do. So how is civil legal aid funded in Wisconsin? It's funded through 3 big buckets: public funds, hybrid funds, and private funds. The public funds include federal, state, and local funding. The Legal Services Corporation is, the LSC, is a funder for both Legal Action of Wisconsin and Wisconsin Judicare. They provide actually a large portion of the funds for those 2 organizations. Hybrid funds include funds that come from WisStaff, the Wisconsin Trust Account Fund. They also include fees that you will pay on your state bar dues and pro hoc DJ applications. If someone's applying to practice law in Wisconsin from outside the state, a portion of those funds will be will provide some funding to civil legal aid. And then of course there's private funds, and that includes donations from individuals, organizations, and foundations. And that's really where WEJF comes in. WEJF's primary mission is to raise private funds for Disability Rights of Wisconsin, Wisconsin Judicare, and Legal Action of Wisconsin. We've actually raised $6.6 million now since 1997 for pro bono civil legal aid in Wisconsin. Our board of directors consists of attorneys from law firms and corporations around the state, also a 3L and a staff member from each of the law schools in Wisconsin. Our staff representative for Marquette is Angela Schultz, your assistant dean for public service, and your student rep is Mishikat Turania. And Mishi is here with us today to talk about her experiences on the WEJF board and why you might want to consider applying to be the Marquette student rep during your 3L year in school. Mishi?
So I got involved with the Wisconsin Equal Justice Fund because I thought it was a great way to support public interest work. And having interned at the Legal Action of Wisconsin, it was wonderful to see more of the people who work tirelessly so that civil legal aid can be provided to the community. I think other students should consider being on the Wisconsin Equal Justice Fund board because as 3Ls, you can see how you can get involved in the future as lawyers, and you can understand that no matter what career path you take, that civil legal aid is a cause we all can contribute to. It's also really rewarding if you've been involved in pro bono work or public interest work, as you get to appreciate the value of it on kind of a different level. Plus you get to meet some really great people. If you'd like to apply, the application form for next year is linked on the student info page of the Wisconsin Equal Justice Fund website, and will also be emailed out to the 2Ls in the upcoming weeks. And I'm also always available to answer any questions or talk more about my experience, so please feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Mishi.
We talked about the pro bono portal. So we wanted to leave a lot of time for questions. If you have any questions about public interest law, any questions about civil legal aid, we've got people here. We can answer your questions. Fire at us.
So in terms of that pro bono, sorry, I forgot what you call portal. Would you say that there are a fair amount of opportunities where students get involved as well as actual?
That is a fantastic question. And I actually wondered the same thing as I was talking about it. So thank you for asking the question.
So I can take it.
Please, maybe.
The pro bono portal is new last year, so we are posting opportunities pretty regularly. Paige, are you as well on the portal?
More occasionally,
So,
but we're trying to add more.
but I would like to say that we have a lot of student pro bono opportunities, and they are, pushed out through the law school. I know Adam and Megan do try to reach out to folks to get them involved. I know right now we're starting, we have a bankruptcy, both an advice clinic and then also preparing the bankruptcy petitions pro bono opportunity with law students. We regularly hold expungement clinics and the driver's license recovery clinics, and those are both for in Madison, both in-person opportunities and remote opportunities. We kind of hold, different types of clinics in those areas. And we also have other pro bono opportunities, with housing law and unemployment compensation as well. So those are our big pro bono opportunities with law students.
Thanks, Maggie. On this pro bono portal, there's this link up here in the upper right that see all opportunities, so you don't have to hone into something in particular. And then you can sort by relevance, upcoming, recently added. So if you are going in regularly, you can sort accordingly. You could also get in and say, I want to look at only, let's say, housing cases. And so I can, there's a way that I can filter down. Yeah, I just clicked on it and up here it's filtering. There's 17 housing specific cases so that you can narrow down.
And I will say in the portal, I don't see how they can see it as a reader, but when we describe each opportunity, there's a box we can check for if it's a good opportunity for law students. We check, is this a good opportunity for remote attorneys or all attorneys or law students? So there might not be a filter for that, but you should be able to see some of that information in each opportunity's description.
Super, thanks for that input, Paige. Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us. If you do think of other questions, you'll be directed to the WEJF website with that flyer so that you can get my information. You can contact me anytime. Again, my name is Allie Lynch and I'm the executive director. I'm the only person you'll find with the phone number that you call. And anybody, I can hook you up with anybody who's on the call. If you say, hey, I had a question for the person that was talking about XYZ, or the person from disability rights, or for Maggie specifically, just let me know. I'm happy to help connect you as needed. Thanks so much for coming. Have a great day. Stay warm.
Thank you.